Yeah. I think we have a sense now of how this will play out. There's, different contingencies, right? One is they strike a deal. They make enough progress with the vice president and the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner there, J.D. Vance there, and, of course, the diplomat in hotspots around the world, Steve Witkoff. They got the A-team there for negotiating. There could come away with a deal. There could be progress. The straits could open, commerce could resume, and we could be moving towards a peace resolution. But if there isn't, one of the strategies that the military is preparing for is for us to create a naval blockade around the Strait of Hormuz, meaning, all right, the Iranians block what they want, but we're not going to let anything out of the Strait of Hormuz, which will shut China down. It will shut the whole world down. And the game of uncle with Iran will have changed to now it's a game of uncle with America. I think that may be one of the new solutions that the United States government is considering, the military is building for. That's why these additional assets were sent to the region in the last week or so. That would speed up any resolution. It would put enormous pressure on China, which has a strong need to get more energy out of Iran. Our blockade would prevent that from happening. So I'd be looking for that as a first option as opposed to a complete new round of attacks. There's a thinking that maybe a little pressure from a blockade will make the Iranians even more amenable to a deal because it would shut off their cash spigot and it would cripple those who are still propping up Iran with unlawful oil sales, particularly China. So that's sort of some of the planning that my sources have been telling me going on behind the scenes. I still think option one is very real. I think there's a little bit of optimism among the U.S. team that this is a different Iran. It's humbled. It's been destroyed significantly. And all the rhetoric aside, the propaganda aside that they still blast through their airwaves, behind the scenes, the Iranians are signaling they're willing to make a more reasonable deal than in years past. So option one is still on the table, but the president has a very short sand clock, and I think they move to a blockade as phase two, and then they could always resume attacks like they had going on at any moment. But I think we're learning more about the strategy today.
This is fascinating.
Yeah.
Of all the things, I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I hadn't thought of that. So we do a blockade, not in the strait, maybe at the mouth of the strait before anyone can enter or exit for that matter.
Right.
And you've basically you've actually taken control of the Strait of Hormuz on our own instead of the Iranians negotiating that. So
that's right.
That would take them. They take off the table that they're going to toll ships going through the strait, and it also buys some time before you have to literally bomb the living daylights out of the civilization, as Trump has said before, as that's always still a possibility. Well, do you have any idea who came up with that? Is this the Navy that came up with it? Is it Hegseth?
Yeah, I think it's the entire national security team. The president has a very strong team, and they're very unconventional thinkers. They look at things that have worked in wars past, and maybe we just haven't tried for a while because we're used to doing things the same way. This is a very unconventional way of going about creating pressure without having to kill a lot of people, and it would cripple the last vestiges of any cash flow that Iran has. One of the things that I have picked up from both foreign intelligence and American intelligence is Iran's cash flow has shrunk significantly since February. The bombings have just made it impossible for them to sell anything. They can't sell drones to Russia. They can't sell oil to China. They can't get money to their proxies, the Hezbollah and Houthi terrorists, and vice versa. Those guys can't pay them for weaponry. So Iran's elite now are starting to run cash short. It's not just the people, it's the elites. And I think that's got the attention of a lot of the civilian side of the Iranian government. This blockade would almost certainly get the attention of the IRGC, which is probably the one part of the Iranian government most holding out for more violence. It's a very novel idea and probably on the table in a big way right now.
So just throwing this out there, would NATO assist? This is one area that they could actually probably assist.
Yeah. You would think, but I don't know. I think the president has thought that NATO is AWOL. I think that's going to be the new acronym for NATO, AWOL. I think the United States has the capability to do it all itself. That's why we sent those additional assets out there. It will put China in a bind. And, one of the things the president tweeted this story out this morning and then made some commentary about it, that we're realigning the world order. China's upper hand economic leverage has been single-handedly destroyed in the last 4 months. Their backdoor illicit oil business that they were doing with Venezuela, Cuba, and Iran has been completely obliterated, first by the Maduro arrest, then by the negotiations with Cuba, and now by the military operation in Iran. China is the biggest loser. It has been humbled, and it's very quickly been reminded, you might be a major power, but you're not the superpower. America still is. And I think the president enjoyed that story and clearly had his own commentary about it today. But China has even more to lose in a naval blockade carried out by the United States. Yeah.